What up, though, people? It is your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid. And look, we got to talk about this Pistons Pacers game. They fall, Detroit Pistons, your Detroit Pistons fall to the Pacers 124 to 115. Now, this was a game that I was hoping to see a little bit more competitiveness out of the Pistons versus what we saw versus the New York Knicks. Now, I believe the New York Knicks are a team that just has the Pistons number. They play bully ball. The Pistons are still trying to figure out, as a young team, certain aspects of the game. And being young, as Coach Casey has stated, is no excuse, but it is a factor. It is going to play a factor all season long, especially while the Pistons are short on depth. They are missing still Marvin Bagley, Nerlens Noel, and Alec Burks. Alec Burks and Marvin Bagley are two players who you should see instant results when these guys enter the lineup. And speaking of injuries, though, it was good to see Isaiah Livers return. I didn't think we were going to get much out of him coming off of the injury. I know he's been trying to stay ready. But overall, this was kind of, more of the same as it relates to turnovers, from the Pistons and their perimeter defense. It just continues to be an issue. Them being able to switch effectively. This plagued them a little bit last year. This plagued them throughout the preseason. And Coach Casey, he continued to lament about it all throughout the preseason. I remember at the end of it, he said, "Hey, look, young is not being an excuse, but we're still learning this game. We're still teaching these guys. We're still going to hit the season learning how to play these defenses and these switches correctly." Ironically, Jalen Duren continues to be one of those guys. He didn't put up the box score stats that we saw, from opening night, but he still continues to be a guy defensively who I think is giving a little bit more than any of us really thought he'd be able to do. He moves his feet well on defense, especially on the perimeter, and he has just kind of made it tough for people driving into the lane, but it's pretty much just been him. Outside of Duran in that paint, Beef Stew's he's made it painful as well, but these guys got to stay out of foul trouble. Outside of those two guys, it gets a little difficult for this team to really, really go to like brute force with Marvin Bagley and Noel being out right now. But largely Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, they were the stories of the game for the Pacers. They were, and you know what? Let me not forget about Jalen Smith. Shout out Jalen Smith, man. Last year, this man was getting pointed at for getting dunked on by Cade Cunningham. This game, that boy had 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 blocks. So shout out Jalen Smith, man. I just wanted to make sure we at least got to him before we got to Benedict Mathurin and Tyrese Halliburton. Man, those boys, and I put this in the post-game article, two guards that could have been Detroit Pistons. We know that Tyrese was picked 12 in the 2020 draft. That was 5 spots behind Killian at the 7th. And Benedict Mathurin was taken 1 spot after the Pistons took Jay and Ivey. Benedict Mathurin on the night, 27 points, 7 rebounds, man. 5 of 8 from 3, 10 of 18 from the field. We also have Tyrese Halliburton, 24 points, 10 assists, 3 of 6 from 3, 7 of 16 from the field. And those guys just looked good all night on offense. I want to see a little bit more Benedict Mathurin's defense, but everything else that I saw tonight, man, it was just right. It was absolutely right. I didn't even see, looking at the box score now, only 2 turnovers for Benedict Mathurin, 1 turnover for Tyrese Halliburton. Those guys played polished. They knew what they were doing. You want to talk about the confidence and aggression that we hear Killian Hayes saying he wants to play with? These guys, they played with it. And they played like they knew they were getting buckets tonight. Let me see here. Anything else from this box score jump out at me? You know what? Yeah, this big man, Goga Batatse. Hey, man, if anybody know how to say his name, definitely get that to me. But Bitadze, man, he had 14 points, 15 rebounds, and he looked real solid off the bench. Just one of those brute guys that I'm talking about that I'm hoping the Pistons can continue to get more of. And if we had, again, Marvin Bagley, Nerlens Noel, that's going to be a huge punch. Right now, our front court is thin, and you guys got to understand that. Our bench depth has gotten exposed versus the Knicks and the Pacers. Coming off of a second game of a back-to-back, traveling. The Pacers didn't have to travel. This was the second game of a of a back-to-back for them as well. But they stayed at home. Pistons traveled from Detroit to New York to Indiana. So some fatigue was going to be, a concern. But when you look at the Pistons bench tonight of Isaiah Livers, Jalen Duren, Corey Joseph, Killian Hayes, Jaime Diallo. That's all who got off the bench tonight. Livers 8 points, 2 or 3 from 3 point. So he did what you want him to do. Play some decent defense, but these guys are kind of reaching. They're playing defense with their hands, reaching, grabbing. He had 3 personal fouls. Jalen Duren 6 points, 3 rebounds, 2 blocks. Was really the only person on the team with a block. Killian Hayes had 1 tonight too. Corey Joseph 10 points, continues to be a big spark off the bench, kind of a stabilizing force. A couple free throws. The only person off the bench to shoot free throws was Corey Joseph. He was 2 of 2, 2 or 3 from the 3-point line for him as well. 5 points for Killian Hayes. A little disappointing, with his game. I know that these guys are still filling things out, but going out there matched up against really guards who are from your draft class and in your peer group and in your age group, you're not going up against Drew Holiday. This is Benedict Mathurin, Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield. I don't know. I wanted to see a little bit more, and you're coming off the bench. You know what I'm saying? Chris Duarte, he came off the bench as a shooting guard, got 9 points. TJ McConnell got 2 points, 2 assists, 4 rebounds, wasn't really shooting, And the reason why I bring up his points is because off the bench tonight, Killian Hayes, he didn't do what we're used to seeing him do. He had 2 assists, 1 block, 5 points. That was just about it. 17 minutes, so not a lot of time for him to get into a rhythm. So I'm not crushing him. I'm just calling it out. Jaime Diallo continues to be just a mystery to me, man. He played so well when the Pistons first traded for him, and I say that relatively as it relates to his position on the team. But as of late, I just don't know what to make out of Jaime Diallo and what he's going to bring to the table. I feel like in certain spots tonight, Rodney Magruder with his 3-point shot might have been a little bit of a better option, but to each his own. The Pistons did shoot 42.9% from 3 and 76.7% from the free throw line. Both of those better numbers, what you want to see a little bit more of versus what they did against the Knicks. Now, 38.9% from the field goal, that's something they got to get right, man. There was a lot of shots that rimmed out, a lot of layups that they're missing, a lot of hook shots that they're missing, a lot of shots just wouldn't stay down. These are things they got to figure out. And with like I said, again, a young team like this, it takes some time. It really does. Anything else of note from the box score here? The starters all put it down. Bojan with 16 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. Saddiq Bey, 20 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists. He's been getting those assists and those rebounds up. We talked about in the offseason, who is going to be able to replace, the defense that Jeremy Grant brought, as well as some of the offensive intangibles. I believe Saddiq Bey is trying to fill those holes, and he's been doing it relatively well. Has to shoot a little bit better. 5 of 16 tonight, 2 of 8 from 3. Isaiah Stewart was 2 of 10 tonight from the field, but 6 of 10 from free throw. So he shot a little bit better from free throw line. 16 rebounds, 6 O boards, man. Offensive rebounds for him. 4 offensive rebounds for Saddiq Bey. 10 defensive rebounds for Stewart. No blocks tonight, no steals, 2 assists, 11 points. Cade Cunningham, on a night where the Pistons lost by, 9 points, Cade Cunningham actually was a +4. He, Jaden Ivey, Saddiq Bey were the only pluses on the team tonight. +4, 22 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds for him. He shot decent, 8 of 19, 4 of 8 from 3. So that's really good shooting, actually. Really, really good shooting, especially when you adjust it for the 3-point shots. And Jaden Ivey. Let me go back to Cade and Saddiq Bey. These guys are, in my opinion, they continue to ball out. Now, Saddiq Bey, you want to see his shooting efficiency raise, but everything else that he's doing out there on the court to affect this team in a positive way, those things you kind of want those things. I believe his shooting and his shooting will come around. His streakiness will start to fade. But for right now, you like all the other things that he's throwing in there as well. The rebounds, he's been trying to get in there to assist. I know in the year right now, Saddiq Bey is not averaging too many assists. So when he does get in there and get you 3 or 4, that's something that you want to see. He had 3 in the first game against Orlando, 3 in the game against Indiana, none against New York. Let's see here. Jaden Ivey. But yeah, this guy, I don't know what to make out of Jaden Ivey. Yeah, I think some people believe, hey, he's going to come in here and average about, 10, 12 points a game, 3, 4 rebounds, 3, 4 assists, get to the free throw line, and look like a serviceable player. Look like a player who over the year, maybe gets up to 14, 15, 16 points per game as we get, in that second half of the season shows a little bit more efficiency, a little bit better grasp of the game. But no, he had other plans, man. He's averaging about 18, 17 points per game right now. His rebounds are definitely going up. I'm sitting here looking at it now. Through 3 games, he has 16 rebounds. So yeah, his previous stats on ESPN, they haven't updated yet. So they still have him at 2.5 rebounds per game, 6.5 assists per game. So his stats are pretty much going to go up. He's looking at, when he's adjusted, about 18, 4 rebounds. Actually more than that, but 18, about 5.5 rebounds a game and about 6 assists a game. Wow. Like, did we know Jaden Ivey was going to be coming out of his first 3 games and be looking like a 17, 5 and 5 player? His playmaking is the thing that I believe has impressed me the most. That's one of the questions that we went over during our draft coverage when we were going over the different prospects. Benedict Mathurin, we knew his 3-point shooting, we knew his scoring was going to be big time. His defense was something we had to kind of figure out, and we wanted to know if Benedict Mathurin's scoring was going to be one that really, really drove the team towards winning. And with Jaden Ivey, one of the biggest things we talked about is, beyond can he play composed within his speed, with Jaden Ivey was his playmaking. Now, Jeff Iafredi of the Morning Woodward Show and one of the co-hosts of the Woodward Pistons podcast, along with myself and Rod Beard of the Detroit News, he stated, what is Jaden Ivey asked to do? What has he been asked to do? Was he asked to really play make, or was he asked to kind of dribble the ball, a couple times, survey, and then pass it back? Was he asked to kind of get out of the way of that Purdue offense when, it was kind of more paint dominated and oriented with the big man? So I believed that the type of speed he possessed, he was going to create open looks just in general. And he's doing that in the NBA. His passing is not as polished. He has some turnover issues that he has to get under control. I believe tonight he had 5 turnovers. You take those turnovers with a young player trying to learn how to facilitate, especially when in their previous games they didn't have too many turnovers. I think, first game, 2 turnovers. Second game, 4 turnovers. You want to see that get down, especially. But he had 9 assists. You kind of live with these things as they're going out there to make plays for the team. So Jaden Ivey is proving he has a knack or a penchant for playmaking. The gravity just absorbs, it just sucks into him. As he is driving down the paint, you notice the whole entire defense just starts to look at him or collapse towards him. And guys are open. Jaden Ivey just has to get a little bit more wise about making the right read on that play. There's a couple times where the pass just had a little bit too much heat. There's been times in the past a little bit too high or whatnot. But, overall, he's proving that he's somebody that can make a serious difference. We all talked about there being a need for number 2 player behind Cade, and I believe that with Cade and Jaden Ivey, we're going to see these guys being really 1A and 1B, Batman and Superman. I don't believe that this is a superhero and sidekick type of a thing. Jaden Ivey's proving already that he's a problem. Jalen Duren, I'm hoping to see him, give us more of what we saw in that first game. But he looked good tonight. I know what the stats and the box score says, but he looked good tonight. His job is not to go out there and try and put up a lot of points. His job is to go out there and rebound the ball, which you want to see a little bit more of every night. You want to see that boy get out there and get 10 rebounds just in his sleep, But in terms of rim rolling, pick and rolls, things like that, setting a strong pick, that's what you want to see him do. I'm going to see him sell out a little bit more. Teams, I think, they're starting to realize, hey, if he doesn't sell out, just get right on around him. But overall, this team, they competed in the first half. They were up a little bit without Cade really, really, really getting going. Cade has been kind of doing this thing where he's surveying, he's probing, he's getting rebounds, he's getting assists, he's setting his teammates up, make sure the guys can get a feel for the game. And then in the third, fourth quarter, Cade has taken more of an offensive step forward, in the game, taking more of the offensive burden on his own shoulders to be able to try and get something done. But Tim McCormick of Bally Sports Detroit tonight on the post-game show, he stated, and I kind of agree with him. I would have agreed with him if Jaden Ivey isn't here, but I see his point. You kind of want to see Cade Cunningham get going early. You don't want to see him taking, a three here and there, a shot here and there, and never really being able to go out and do 1, 2, 3, 4 shots to get himself comfortable. Shooters shoot, but it's about the comfort too. And when Cade's out there and he's just setting up his guys, sometimes that does not allow him the opportunity to get a feel for the basketball, get a feel for a shot. So, I with what Tim McCormick is saying, it's an astute finding, something to look at, and I'm hoping that that's something that Cade figures out, and I know he will. It's a delicate balance because his brain, his mindset is always geared towards putting his teammates in the best possible position to succeed. But he's so good that the gravity absorbs around him that I know he's thinking that, hey, I'm going to drive in, they're going to attack me, and I know somebody's going to be open. But when your teammates aren't hitting shots off of the passes that you're sending out there, bro, you got to do what you have to do. And Cade Cunningham, you could do that thing, bro. As he continues, like I said, to get that balance, to find out when should I strike, when should I pass, that's when I believe we're going to see a Cade Cunningham that's coming out and getting, 4 or 5 buckets in the first quarter, just to set the tone, just to come out and say, hey, look. Now, the reason why I said if Jaden Ivey wasn't here, that I would be more inclined to say, you know what, push, push, push. With Jaden Ivey here, we saw the Pistons get off to a fast start. Cade Cunningham, he wasn't, in multiple games, we saw them get out to a fast start. Against Orlando, they got off to a decent start. Actually, it was 6-2, and it was off of play from Jaden Ivey getting out fast. We've seen the Pistons start off like that in the summer league, in preseason, in the practice, and now in regular season. With Jaden Ivey here, he's the guy that you can use to really get your offense started. The problem is he's just not as polished right now, so you'll get some offensive fouls, you'll get some turnovers, you'll get some errant passes and things of that nature. But in terms of the long term, this is why Cade Cunningham, if he believes and if he knows I can score whenever I want to score, then you know what? For right now, it might be best for the development of the team, the foundation of the restoration, for them to go about it this way. And we know that the Pistons, they've done this now under Troy Weaver. Before Troy Weaver, the mandate was win now. Under Troy Weaver, the mandate is restoration. It's not win now. It's not lose now. It's not tank now. It's not go for the playoffs now. It's build the right way. And that's what they're doing. They're building the right way. So if they see a place where they can accelerate, they're going to accelerate. If they see a place where it may benefit them to kind of stand pat and not move as advantageous, they're going to stand pat. And that's what we've seen them do with the Jeremy Grant trade. They didn't trade him at the deadline, which I believe would have gotten them a lesser return. And, that was stated during the draft time by a lot of our Woodward Pistons personalities and such. But they waited until, hey, you know what? Let's accelerate this thing. And when they did trade Jeremy Grant, it was funny that people were like, why would they trade him for just that singular pick that's not going to get them anything in return? Then we saw all the other dominoes fall. So we know that Troy Weaver, he has his hand on the pulse. He kind of knows what's going on, where to go with this restoration thing, and it's an ebb and flow. I do believe that this is the last year that we're going to see this team be one that is, as the organization called it, and at media day and press conference, and they're going to continue to say, it's a work in process, man. This is their year of learning to compete. That's what this year is. It's learning to compete. They're entering the competing phase, and that's what they stated. Now, do you want to see them go out there and beat a team that is of a similar build, similar time frame as them in the Indiana Pacers? Yes, you do. That's a game that I hope that they would have gotten, just like the Orlando game, but I get it. Home crowd, first game of the season. You're not coming off of a game versus the New York Knicks who bully and beat you up and tire you out. I believe if this was at home or if they were just flying into Indiana as they did the New York Knicks, might be a little bit different results. But again, the depth is one thing that is glaringly a weakness. Until they get back Marvin Bagley and Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks, it's gonna be a little tough here. Right now, they're relying on, like I said, a bench. The end of the bench is Corey Joseph, Killian Hayes, Hamid Diallo, Isaiah Livers, Jalen Duren, and then you have Knox, Noel, Magruder, Key, and Buddy. I don't know how much Buddy's gonna really play this season. It's gonna be an interesting ride here, man. It's gonna be an interesting ride, but overall, the Pistons they got some work to do on the defensive end and with turnovers. Those are their biggest issues. I'm not worried about the shooting right now. I'm not. They've proven that they're going to be pretty much a streaky shooting team, and they're also a team that can get up and down the court in transition. So if they rely on their strengths, I'm not that worried about the shooting. If these guys can clean up those turnovers and get active defensively, because they have the players to do so, man. They have the length to do so. They have the speed. They have the athleticism. They're good to go in that department. It's just the technique, man. They are not sliding their feet right. They're not finding the pick and roll, the roller right. They're not finding the backdoor lobs right. They're not sealing that off. Their guys just cutting through the lane. They have to figure this out. Even some 3-point shots, they're not even defending that right. After the defense kind of swings the ball around, after the offense swings the ball around the perimeter, and the Pistons defense has to shift to one side of the court, it just seems like when the ball is skipped back to the other side, the defense is just having a difficult time getting back and defending that three, or a difficult time getting up to the top of the key and defending that three. So, like I said, perimeter defense, um, it needs some work. And by perimeter defense, I don't mean just them shooting the three, them guarding the three. I mean, as it relates to man-to-man defense. Like I saw Jalen Duren as shout out to Hal. He clipped this play tonight where Jalen Duren was able to successfully defend a guard and Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell. I can't believe I just called him by Mitch McConnell. I forget his name, TJ McConnell. But yeah, he successfully defended TJ McConnell and also got the rebound on that same play. He did have some help on the defense. Jaden Ivey pinched over at the top of the key. But it was a good display of perimeter defense, stopping the penetration from getting inside into the paint. Because every time that happens, you're going to put pressure on your bigs. And when you look at the bigs tonight, man, if we just look at their fouls, let's see here. Personal fouls. Isaiah Livers, 3. When he comes off the bench, he's going to be that guy. Now, Jalen Duren, again, no fouls, which is amazing. Because he had let's see here. How many blocks did he have? I think 3 blocks, 2 blocks, no fouls. This is becoming an art for him. It really is. Let's see here. Who else had Isaiah Stewart, 5 personal fouls. Cade Cunningham, he had a couple cheap fouls too. Like I said, the team, the guards, just stop the reaching. They will be fine. Yeah, but largely this team, the effort was there. The depth is not there. They need more talent. Hopefully Marvin Bagley and Alec Burks can add something significant as it relates to their bench depth. And largely Cade, Sadiq, they looked good. Sadiq streaky shooting tonight. Jaden Ivey, he's a blur. He's absolutely fast. Got to get a little bit more composed, but that's going to come in time. Hey, let me know what you guys are feeling, what you guys are thinking right now, what you want to see the Pistons improve on, what you think they need to do to make sure they get this dub against the Washington Wizards, who they play next. I believe this Tuesday at 7 p.m., October 25th.